hard because you're used to operating at a certain pace, where you can go and go and go and push yourself. And if you have a bad night of sleep, it's not such a big deal. But when your body is fighting something, whether it's a concussion, whether it's a virus, it's like there's only a certain amount of energy in there, and it's going to slow you down, which, I mean, I appreciate the body for its knowledge, but and innate wisdom. But in the 3D world, it's a little bit challenging when you've got deadlines and appointments. So, self care has become, for me, a huge priority, and hopefully for you too.
It really has. As it sounds weird, but as we're getting older, that's all
Yes.
we have.
Yeah.
If this is not right, if this is not right, nothing really flows. It doesn't matter what's out there, what you got, what you don't got. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's this November will be 6 years sober for me, so that'll be good.
Congrats. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
I struggle with that deeply.
In the sense of like wanting to drink or not feeling socially accepted.
I think that's what it was, but there's a lot of past stuff I hadn't dealt with.
Mm,
When you suppress it, and then abandonment, trauma, and then you're just like, I just want to be accepted. I want to be accepted,
yeah.
thinking I was actually better drunk, but I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was a binge drinker, and I would do stupid things, like so many things, like, and then always apologizing to people or losing friendships over really ridiculous things. And I was like, I would not do that in the right mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Regret, but then you can only do so much, right? And shame and all that. So
I think it's huge, right? When you can let go of booze and you have that extended time where you have the freedom to go, oh, it's actually not serving me in the way I thought it was.
mhm.
It really is an eye opener because I was forced to quit drinking because my body just said no, can't handle it. And I noticed for the first couple years, like I always felt going into a party like, I have to at least carry around a glass of wine because I was so sick of people being like, why aren't you drinking? And just there is that real question, and I'm going
Mhm.
to say some pressure around it, like when you're not drinking. But I feel like the tides have turned
They have.
this last year or two, which has been amazing to see so many people embrace sober culture.
And you know what? I'm okay with others around me drinking. I don't have the pressures of that, but you're right. It was that awkward moment where people would say, "Hey, let's grab a beer after work, or let's go do this." I'm like, well, let's grab a coffee."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I would say I wouldn't have been able to start the podcast. Well, I did that sober because I changed that stool for this stool. Yeah.
Yes. I like it.
So what's
Yeah.
been going on in your life? How is your health? First of all, it's good.
Yeah, overall, my health has been really good. Like you, I still have to really prioritize self-care, and when I don't,
Mm.
um, I do struggle with having strong energy. So for me, sleep is so important, eating properly, not having junk food, having whole foods. Um, and I've been grateful. Like, I've definitely felt waves where, there's weeks or months at a time where I'm like, this is amazing. So it's amazing how long it can take the body to heal. Changes can happen, but to get to full healing, it can take a long time. But, overall, things have been really good and I feel good. I'm someone who I do better in sunshine. So I'm like, I got to figure out how to get to Mexico in the winter.
For the listeners, h- what's your background, your story? You're from Calgary originally?
I grew up in a small town in central Alberta. So by Sylvan Lake, it's a town called Eckville, super teeny town. And for me, it was great growing up in a small town, right? You have freedom, you can go and explore. But I always knew I wanted to be in the city. So I came here for university. And then I started working downtown, the corporate grind, the work hard, play hard, and which was lots of fun. And I met great people like yourself. But it also took a toll. So for me, I was that kid who had unlimited energy. I was the Energizer Bunny, was involved in sports, and was a high, like an elite athlete. And for me, though, what was a big turning point was when I was 13, I had mono, And after that, my body just never felt right. So now we know, of course, with long COVID, what can happen is two things. One, the virus can be a stealth virus and hang out in the background, causing your immune system to be on high alert all the time. But two, it also can cause a cascade of issues with inflammatory pathways and histamine pathways. So after having mono, I just attributed my fatigue to the fact that I was a teenager and I slept lots, um, and I also was such a night owl too. So what can happen with the body is when your body, and you may notice this, is holding on to its cortisol reserves because it is low energy. At night, you get that big burst, and that's why we get our second wind, which can be a challenge. So for me, it was investigation basically from the time I hit my early 20s when I was in university and I realized, this fatigue is not normal. Like I would go nap in the hallway and my classmates were fine. So I was living on Starbucks at that time. And I worked at Starbucks because I thought to myself, well, I might as well get paid for drinking coffee. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. Um, and then throughout my 20s and into my early 30s, like I said, it was work hard, play hard. Um, and that I have so many good memories from, but I also can see the toll on my body. So when I was 24, I decided to get breast implants. And so, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is breast implants have a black box warning. And so, for anything approved by the FDA or Health Canada, what it means when you have a black box warning is you shouldn't be using that product anymore. But because of lobby groups lobbying the government, implants are still available because it's such big business. So I got implants when I was 24. And then in about, I would say 35 or so, when I was out, I remember very vividly, we were at Cactus Club downtown. It was my girlfriend's birthday. Had a couple glasses of wine, but I was home early that night. And I woke up and I was just in a pool of sweat. And I thought, that is so weird. And it was shortly thereafter that things really started to change for me, where my fatigue got so bad that I had to take time off work. Throughout this time, I had been going to many practitioners. I started off with a GP, and the irony is, as I started off in pharmaceutical sales, selling antidepressants. So my GP ran my blood work, and like most people in my situation, your blood work comes back, and they'll say, "Oh, it's fine. It's got to be in your head." And he said, "I think the only other answer is putting you on an antidepressant." And I kind of not giggled, but just sat back and went, okay, see this PHQ-9, which is a questionnaire to assess depression? I'm like, I use this every day with clinicians. I've done it myself. Like, it's not in my head. I know it's a very physical thing. So back then, there wasn't a lot of other options, especially in Calgary. There wasn't a ton of naturopaths, and I started seeing some holistic practitioners, and we changed my diet and went gluten-free and dairy-free. And that definitely made a huge difference for a lot of years.
What were the symptoms though that you were having?
So for me, it was just waking up in the morning, feeling like I couldn't get out of bed, feeling like my body was so heavy. I needed coffee to get going. And, like people say, well, we all need coffee to get going. I literally like couldn't function without it. Um, and as the day progressed, I would get better and better. So to my point of speaking about the cortisol dumping, early afternoon into the evening, I'd get that dump and then I would be feeling great. So nights, people talk about being night owls. Well, that's why you feel better in the evening, because again, it's your circadian rhythm. So I had a hard time sleeping, but I was still functioning and I was still working out. It was just that nagging fatigue, and you'd go to the doctor, and again, they would say, well, there's nothing we can do. So it was this elusive symptom where I didn't have a lot of other symptoms until, like I was saying, at Cactus Club, where then I started having like night sweats. And at that point, I really couldn't tolerate a lot of foods anymore. So after many years of like working with different holistic practitioners, um, I had switched from pharmaceutical sales to working in functional medicine because of the fact that I just realized for myself, I'm not getting treatment through the Western system. And like, it's so great if you're in a car accident or you need surgery. But as I'm sure you saw with a concussion, there's just not that treatment. It's not healthcare, it's sick care.
So those symptoms were happening.
Yeah.
Now we're in lockdowns.
Hmm.
Or was there
So
a time before, like, because you were dealing with that for a few years, weren't you?
yeah, no, it started about a year before lockdown. And like you push through, you think, oh, it's fine. You know, I seen some more naturopaths. And one thing that really helped me was IVs. So vitamin IVs, high dose vitamin C IVs. And so I was doing those. And when I did it, it felt great. But when COVID hit, I know it was hard for a lot of people, but for me personally, it was wonderful because it allowed me to not have to say no to going out and feel bad. It allowed me to just really focus on, okay, I've got the time and the space. I'm going to engage, I don't care what it costs, a functional doctor. And because I was working with all the functional doctors across Western Canada, I really knew the ones that would be able to help me because I could see their knowledge level. And so I started working. Do you know Nirvana Naturopathic in Mission?
I don't. No.
It's in the Hopewell building.
Okay.
And there's this one functional practitioner. His name's Corey Deacon. So unbelievably smart. Might be someone you want to see. But I started there, and he's like, you know what I appreciated about him is there was no gaslighting. He was like, yes, your symptoms are real. He said, I think it could be mold toxicity. If it's not that, it could be co-infections, potentially Lyme. And if it's not that, it's your implants. So in my head, I was like, definitely not my implants. So we did mold testing, which if you have any underlying symptoms, mold, like other things, they're a trigger. So we breathe in mold all the time. I tested positive, did some binders, removed it, felt great for about 6 months. Hallelujah, there's the answer. And then I started not feeling good again. And then for me, this was the real big puzzle piece was I did blood work through Armin Labs. So sent my blood across the pond to Germany. And when I got the results back, finally after years, I seen in black and white, my viral levels were so high. You don't want them to be higher than a 2 on this test. Well, my Epstein Barr came back at 24. I had an echovirus running at 12, Coxsackie at 12, and then HHV6 and 7, which most people have. It's like a cold sore virus running as well. And so my doc was like, I don't even know how you're functioning with levels this high. And at that moment, I went, I'm not crazy because it had been so many years. I literally was starting to go, maybe it is just me. Like maybe it is in my head, but it was so physical. So I almost started crying at that moment because just the relief I felt. I was like, this is the answer.
There's a
And
verdict. There's now you can take
yes,
action. Yeah.
yes. And because, do you feel with your concussion that, you can try and explain it to people, but it's an invisible illness. It's not like you have a broken arm, you're not limping. So as much as people want to understand, they can't.
They don't understand. Or, I get it on social media. Hey, let's go, Zach. Come on. Why don't you want to go for a drive? Let's just go do things. I'm like, I can't move, or I just don't have it in me. It's like, come on, you can do it. No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I would love to, but I just don't have it.
Yes. Yeah. And
Mm.
if you push yourself, then you're going to be paying extra.
For people that are, just relying on a certain healthcare system,
Hmm.
Western system, what made you say, okay, let me go send it to Germany? Because you could have got a blood test here. Why didn't you say, I'm going to go do another blood test here again?
I had done so many over the years that were showing completely normal that I just knew it was futile for me. And one thing I'll tell your listeners is so the way that our system, whether it's Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, any of the public labs you go to, how they make their range, so what's normal, they take all of the patients they've ever had and then they look at that data and then they make the range. But who goes to the lab? Generally, people who are sick.
Or older geriatric.
Yes. So your ranges are way too large. Like, for example, if you're struggling with something like thyroid, do not follow the normal range through APL. I'm not going to sit here and crap on the system because there's a lot of good things and it's amazing that we can get free blood work, but you have to really empower yourself. You have to look at it like you're the consumer and you're shopping around for solutions. So if there's so many people that struggle with thyroid, and I can send you this after, Zach, is like the range for your thyroid is going to be so much more narrow. So when you realize that you're not actually in the normal range and maybe your medications aren't working, there's other alternatives, whether it's a naturopath or a functional doctor. And yes, it's private pay, but again, for feeling good, like what else do you have if you don't have that?
How did you find the lab in Germany?
So thankfully, like I was
You're gonna say I know people, Zach.
well, it's kind of twofold. One, so working for the functional medicine in Calgary, or functional medicine lab, it was called Rocky Mountain Analytical, and my role was to educate doctors on the products we sold. So I had to know everything about not only the product but our
Mhm.
competitors, and so they were indirectly a competitor. But then also it was my functional doctor who said, "We're going to send your blood over there." And yeah, I guess the thing I want people to know is there's so many other options in what's presented to you from your GP. Like if I was to hold up a requisition right now, yeah, there's probably 100 and some markers. Gosh, there are so many more out there
Mhm.
that if your blood work comes back normal, that's a small percentage of what can actually be tested. So don't lose hope if you're someone who is struggling and is really hoping to find answers.
That's amazing. What was that feeling like? You said you started crying. Was it
Yeah,
tears of joy? Was it tears of something?
relief.
Yeah.
Relief. Yeah, just, you know, I think part of it was a misunderstanding. Everyone would say to me, probably like you, yeah, we're all tired. We all go hard. But it's like there's a difference between tiredness and literally not being able to get out of bed other than to like maybe go to the bathroom because
Mhm.
physically you don't have it. And I get it. You don't know until you know. Like I probably would have been the person saying to you, come on, Zach, just like, let's do it. Let's go. You'll feel better. Um, and it's like anything. If you've never struggled with mental health, sometimes it can be challenging to, understand what someone with, say, depression or anxiety goes through. So it was just a relief that there is an answer. Now, what's the solution? But also, like, it's been so many years of me trying to push and advocate for myself. I think that was part of it is there was so many times where I had to like I don't want to say argue, but push very hard for my case with physicians. Even when I started interviewing surgeons to remove my implants, because that was a big part of. So I had, I guess I'll just close the story. I did do the treatment for the antivirals, and that was great. But I still wasn't feeling 100%. So we got the viruses down. I felt a lot better, but I still wasn't sleeping well.
Right.
I couldn't fall asleep. I had like weird symptoms that developed, dry eyes, um, issues. My fatigue came back. And so my doc was like, look, some people can handle implants. And it really, if you have underlying problems, that's why they should have a black box warning. So,
You're like the fifth person I know that's had to remove their implants. This is
really, yeah. Well,
something's
because,
going on. I mean, I
well,
know one person recently I just saw. Actually, I did a podcast with her on someone else's show, and now she was in the hospital. I saw in her stories she was getting something happen with her body and a
mhm.
reaction.
Well, and here's the thing with implants that I think a lot of people don't know. If I showed you the list of what's actually in there, like the gummy bear implants, you're told are just silicone. You're like, okay, no big deal. They're not gonna, the silicone won't migrate. You have like every single nasty chemical you're going to find in a workshop in that implant. Like if I sent you the list, you're like, that should be used as a cleaner for heavy duty engine oil to remove oil. Or, sorry?
Because even if you're putting it in the mesh and whatever, is the casing solid, or after a while does it corrode just like a vehicle in water? It starts rusting. I mean, sorry for the
It,
metaphor, but is that similar in ways? Like it'll start
yeah.
seeping in.
Your body knows it's a foreign implant or foreign object. And so what happens is your liver sending enzymes to try and build a shell around it. And whether or not the implant degrades, which a lot of women it does, but even if it doesn't, you still get those micro holes in them and tears. And that's when the chemicals can start to seep in your system. So that's why for a lot of people, it takes a while um, for the implants to cause a problem.
Was this all during the pandemic, or this was pre-pandemic when you had
All
found out?
during the pandemic. Yeah. Yeah.
There was some silver linings, wasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it helped us reset and get back to balance. And for myself personally, like I said, it gave me the time and the ability to really focus on changing things and getting back to where I needed to be.
In that moment in time, did you think that you still perhaps may have had Lyme disease?
So here's the thing with Lyme. Um, so on my test, Lyme showed, let's say, low. It still tested, but it was low. So you can have what's called post Lyme. So you can have the bacteria in your body fights that. But generally with Lyme, it's the viruses that cause the issue. So, yes, again, another one. So, starting to to just try and have people believe you. Thankfully, I had a great doctor who knew what to do. But there's so many people out there struggling, and that's why now I'm trying to help people. I'm a health coach, but also an advocate for how to navigate your way through the system because I can do a lot of things. I can do some testing, I can change your diet, get you on supplements. But again, it's so powerful when you see something in black and white too. I'd be curious to know if you end up going for that functional MRI, what it shows for you because yeah, when you see the results, it is that relief. And so that really is my mission now is yes, I primarily work with those who have fatigue, burnout, low energy, um, because that's just really what I know really well. But there's a lot of areas that I know and can guide you. For example, let's say you and I are working together. We're going to look at you as a holistic person. So, your food, what are you taking for supplements and medications? What are we doing for lifestyle interventions? How are you managing your energy? And then for me, I'm more of a connector. So, do I do functional MRIs? No, but I can put you in touch with the right person depending on the results. Okay, maybe we need some IVs. All right, I'm going to put you in touch with the right person. And this is where I feel very grateful that I had experience working with all of the functional doctors who do this. And I know their area because when you Google it, let's be honest, their websites all kind of say the same thing. But the reality is that there's some that are just really good at certain things that you don't know unless you're jumping from practitioner to practitioner. I mean, thankfully, I had some really supportive friends who were very understanding when I went from being party girl Pam to, okay, let's now go to the mountains, go for a walk, grab a coffee, and I want to be home early so I can be in bed early. But it did shift my social network, absolutely. Um,
But you wouldn't change it any other way now. Like you like the vibe.
yeah, it's true. And prioritizing self care. I've said that a few times, but the reality is everyone's busy, and thankfully I don't have kids, and so I understand what it's like if you have kids to try and do it, but you need to fill your own cup before you can fill others. And for me, it was making sure I was now going to bed earlier and just being so much more diligent. And another thing that I think people don't realize that it's going to impact your mental health is when you're feeling crappy, oftentimes food has a component, right? If we're eating inflammatory foods, that's just going to cause another stressor on the body. It's going to make you feel crappy. You wake up and then you start the day feeling bad. So indirectly, that was how I was helping my mental health, was being so diligent with what I was putting in my body.
We hear the word, you got to fill up your own cup before you help anyone else. What could someone do to start? So, obviously, looking at their diet.
Mhm.
Is it journaling? What were some of the things you did, other things that you did to kind of take care of yourself?
I think journaling is really important, um, because of the fact that you have all these ideas swirling around your head. Should I do this? Should I do that? Am I making this up? Like, how do I feel today? And it just allows you to get it out. And for me personally, I found that my level of frustration came down. Um, and for me, like, I had those people in my life that I could talk to the journey about, and then those I couldn't. And for people that I couldn't, who, because they either didn't understand or they just couldn't compute, I found I had to really put my distance with those people. Not because I didn't love them or I didn't care about them, but it was too draining for me. I would leave, I would feel bummed out, I would feel drained, and then sad, because I'm like, I'm not being understood. So I think that was the biggest thing that I did.
Because there's input, 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 but there's no output of a reciprocated response. How are you doing, Pam? Sometimes
Yeah,
that
or like,
matters, that goes a long way.
it goes a long ways, but also like,
If it's genuine, that's the thing.
yes. And also I was getting so tired of the fact that, well, just go to the doctor. They'll figure it out. Get some antibiotics, like you'll be fine. And you don't know until you know. Um, this is becoming a big epidemic, and I feel grateful. There's a For anyone who needs to do more research on this. There's a really good group on Facebook called Breast Implant Illness Healing by Nicole. And when I joined the group, this would have been in like, I'd say 2020, 2021, there was about 150,000 women. Now it's up to 200,000. And it's, if you scroll through, men obviously can't join, but if you are able to scroll through, women share their story one after another after another. And they also share before and after photos, which is amazing. And like, it's so brave of the women to do. So you get to hear real life stories, but you get to hear the impact that the implants had. And also, we get implants to feel better. So what's life being like for them post? And I will say, if somebody is having issues with implants, it's really important that you find a doctor that not only believes in breast implant illness, but also knows how to explant properly. Because a lot of docs will just make an incision, pop out the implant, and call it good. But your body builds up scar tissue around the implant. So the surgeon has to take extra time and cut around the scar tissue, which it it it's it's challenging. You can ask any surgeon. Um, so if you don't remove that, you're not necessarily going to feel better. A lot of people who haven't still struggle with symptoms.
Well, there's an incredible lady here, Carmela or Carmelina. I might be butchering her name, but she does the tattoos for
Yeah,
women that have had breast cancer. It's
yeah,
incredible what she's doing as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still days where I'm like, oh, I would like to wear that shirt, but it's not gonna look so good anymore. But for me, because I had done everything I possibly could before explanting, I knew the remaining symptoms I had was because of my implants, and I was just so ready to have them out and starting to feel better. Like night one, I started sleeping again. And you can argue, oh, you just had surgery that was hard on your body. For 2 years, my poor fiance, like, he watched me toss and turn. I'm sure I kept him up. Like, I would not fall asleep till 1 in the morning, sleep for 2 hours. I'd be up for the rest of the night. First night I slept and I was like, oh, thank you, body. And
And
then
he
I've
was
been
probably
sleeping.
like, "Oh, thank you."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is going to sound really weird, but I was peeing all the time, like every hour.
This is
Probably
prior to, or
prior to, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. About 2 to 3 months after, I noticed I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't go to the bathroom every hour. Like I go like a normal person. My dry eyes started to go away. Um, I had like the worst rash on my skin, which started to go away like within a week of getting the implants out.
That is incredible. And what was your fatigue like in terms of throughout the day? Were you still feeling that?
So you know what? So I ended up going to Montreal because there was really only across Canada, there's only a handful of surgeons who are considered like explant specialists. And their wait list, like in Alberta, the surgeon in Alberta, he was 2 years wait list. So I went to
Two
Montreal.
years. Wow.
Yes, I went to Montreal because he could get me in within like 2 months, and he only explants. And that week, like I was feeling great. I'm actually grateful I was there because I did have enough energy that during the mornings we could walk around. I booked hyperbaric chamber treatments because for anyone having surgery, it's a good thing to do. It forces oxygen into your tissues, so it'll help you to heal much quicker. So I'd do a treatment, we'd walk around until I got tired, and then go back to our Airbnb. So, as weird as it is to say, it was like kind of a really good experience. I didn't have pain, but I probably interviewed 4 or 5 surgeons in Alberta before deciding to go out of province. And most of them I left crying because they were so mean about it. They're like, breast implant illness doesn't exist. Um, it's all in your head. I'll take them out, but I won't do what you're asking. Um, and just no room to listen to the patient. Didn't matter how many white papers I brought in, like that's really what docs want. Double blind, placebo.
Interesting. You know, you brought up earlier long COVID. Is that what you thought you might have had, or is that, or did you end up having that?
No, no, that was never my issue, thankfully. But what I had was similar where the virus activates. So whether it's COVID or Epstein Barr, it can hang out in the background and then activate all kinds of immune pathways it shouldn't. And that's basically what I attributed having was long mono for many years. And at that time, I wasn't eating right. I wasn't doing the right things. I wasn't on supplements to support my immune system. So that's why for many years it just kept causing the fatigue.
Pam, if anybody wants to learn more about what you do, what your services are, where do they go?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's pampurnell.com or my Instagram. You can just go to pampurnell.com as well. In the past, I've done single sessions. And for your audience, I would be happy to do that and provide a discount. Typically, what I like to do though is have people commit to 3 months or 6 months working together because if you're not doing well, it's hard to make changes. It can be overwhelming. If you were to go see a functional doctor tomorrow, I'm not saying everyone's going to have to pay $20,000 because that's not realistic, but they might want to do $20,000 in testing. And then let's say you do that. Well, you have 1 hour follow up with the doc. You leave and you're like, I don't know what he just said. So, what I do is a holistic assessment. I can help you if you do work with any other practitioners, understand the testing, what it is. I've found that a lot with my clients that they get testing, they bring it to me, they're like, what does this mean? What do I do? And there's not a lot of practitioners out there that really understand fatigue well. Like, there's a lot of great naturopaths, but a lot of them don't do the right kind of testing. And there's not many functional doctors. Like in Alberta, there's 3, and they're all private. So I help people get back to feeling great, regaining their vitality. Like let's say we were working together. Like I said, I'm going to connect you with other practitioners, but I'm going to be the main point along the way to really be the one that brings all the information together and to help you stay on your plan. Because it's really a lifestyle change in many facets. And it's somewhat of an accountability partner. And For me, I think the biggest thing my clients gain is having access to me um, throughout that time. It's not like going to see the doctor where, it might be a month in or 2 months in between. You can't ask questions. You can reach out to me anytime.
And what would, say, a 3 month or 6 month course or session? It's not a course, sorry, session look like with you?
Yeah. So we're going to meet going to meet for 2 hours in the beginning and come up with a plan. And then I'm going to say to you, Zach, here's everything I'd love to have accomplished over the next 6 months. What can we realistically start with? Because you know your body the best and you know what you can actually do. So maybe we start to make some tweaks in your food. Maybe we're going to eliminate gluten for the first month. And I'm going to provide you recipes and work with you as to what you like and what you don't like. And then let's say we wanted to get your energy up. So I say to you, okay, let's get you in for vitamin IVs. I'm going to connect you with a practitioner who does amazing vitamin IVs. See how that is. And then let's say you wanted to do some testing. There's some testing I can do and some I can't. So if somebody comes to me with, say, burnout and adrenal fatigue, well, let's look at your hormones because as we age, our hormones change, men and women, but specifically women. Do we need to do the testing? And again, if you do the blood work through APL, it gives you a little bit of information with hormones, but there's hormone tests that will show such a huge picture, like you can't even believe the information it reveals. So every 2 weeks at our check-in, we're going to start to add in more um, until we get you to the point where you say, I'm feeling so good and I can do this. And this is now my lifestyle where I'm used to, for some people, it might be as simple as like wearing blue blocker glasses at night, if you know what they are,
Oh yeah,
right?
I have them right here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So there's a lot of things that I can do for people. But at the end of the day, it comes down to evaluating your food, supplements, testing, and then where do we need to bring in additional support?
Are you taking anybody
I
on?
am,
Are you
yeah,
open? Okay,
yeah, I am
perfect.
open. So my calendar is open, so you can go and book an appointment on there.
Our listeners are all across Canada and obviously in the States as well, but primarily Canada.
Yeah,
Do you do virtual clients?
I do. Yeah, I would say the majority of my clients are virtual.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
It's funny the world we're in today. You don't really need to be in person all the time now. I mean,
no.
we got used to doing this. Back in the day we would use Skype, but Zoom and all of that. We just got used to that new way of life. Is there anything that you think we could add to this?
I would just say when it comes to your health, if you're struggling with something, symptoms aren't normal. And just because something happens all the time doesn't mean it's normal. So if you're bloated every day, that's not actually normal. Let's address that and look at why it's happening. Um, again, I like using you as an example with concussions. You don't need to continue to struggle, right? We have the answers out there now to get people better. And it's a matter of, yeah, sometimes it's going to cost you money, prioritizing your health. Like I always find it funny when I see someone walk in with like a Louis Vuitton bag and their Starbucks, and they're like, I don't want to pay $250 for a test. Well, that's going to give you your answers because people have no problem going and spending money at dinners. And I'm not here to say like that's a bad thing to do, but again, um, it's a small price to pay for answers, and I encourage people to really consider functional testing because you are going to get amazing answers. And sometimes on a test, it's not going to give you the answer, but it means okay, that wasn't the issue. Let's look at the next thing. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a long and arduous process. Sometimes we can run a food sensitivity test and find out what you're having issues with. And bam, like within a week of changing those foods, you'll feel much better.
You know, our gut is our second brain, and
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we neglect it, don't we?
Yeah. But again, I think it's that, um, everyone feels bloated. So what's the big deal? Right. People don't realize the connection.
And this is not theory. I mean, you've lived it, you've gone through it year after year. So you do understand how the system works, how we can navigate it. Obviously, there are some challenges out there. Have you ever looked at a test called Viome? Viome? I haven't tried it, but I do love their branding. So I always see different brands out there and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, Viome is, I love that testing are coming to be able to direct to consumers. I think it's important to be able, as a consumer, to access this information. Dave Asprey is on their board. Do you follow much of him at all in like the biohacking world?
I do a little bit of the biohacking world. He came to Calgary for the Upgrade Labs.
Yeah. Oh, were you, was it for the opening when you were there?
I wasn't there. I never went, but I haven't even gone to Upgrade Labs. But we have another uh, biohacking place in Calgary. Used to be in Mission with Lisa.
Aeon. Yeah.
There we go. Hey,
Yeah. And you know what? Those are great places for optimizing your performance.
but
But
before that, right, is what we need to
yeah,
deal with.
we need to deal with the before, because if you go and start doing the biohacking things, um, you can actually, okay, there's some good biohacking things, but if you're struggling with fatigue, one thing I'm going to tell you, cold baths, and people are going to be mad at me for saying this, they're not for you. They're going to spike your adrenaline and um, your other endorphins. And so, of course, you feel good, but that's not actually helping you heal. It's like a temporary band aid.